they find some sort of anti-Hulk juice, then Millennium are going to be struggling to somehow bring this back and find the reverse
Your
sweep.
command of the English language is just impeccable. Anti-Hulk juice. Ugh. All right, Gnar taken off the table now, clearly identified as a weak point for the team. Misfits are keeping the bans the same. We've talked about this. They don't have to change anything up. The question is, how are Millennium going to adjust their strategy? And it looks like, once again, the answer is taking Lucian away from Hans Sama. That is an incredibly bold first pick.
While it is a bold first pick, it does make some sense because Hans definitely performs well on the Lucian. The thing is, I feel like so far in the series, very little conversation has been actually on Hans Sama. A lot of it has been Ignar roaming around the map, Wisdom setting up all of his laners for success, and Selfie just being a dominant mid lane madman.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Hans is doing some work, right? But at the end of the day, he's doing a very good job. He's doing his job as an AD carry, but it's not like he's been put in a position where he's had to outplay anyone.
Exactly.
His support, his jungler have been everywhere on the map, and they have brought that lead to him every time. This time around, however, Sivir, left open, left available, he's going to pick that one up, but it's not nearly as lane dominant as that Lucian, but the Wisdom pick stays the same. Once again, getting their hands on this Rek'Sai.
Third game in a row. Why fix something that ain't broken, Tsepha? I mean, he's been doing a great job on it so far. Game 1, he prioritized heavily on vision control, making sure that his slightly passive laners could have a safer time, slowly building up their lead through farm. Whereas in Game 2, he went hyper-aggressive build. He went for that Titanic Hydra. He went for the very early Cinderhulk smite buff because he basically wanted to say, I'm ready to trade, I'm ready to fight, and this time I'm ready to get myself some ganks. And this time, he was able to do it. So Game 3, we'll have to see how he shifts things up, as picking up the Sivir means that Misfits going much more towards, well, the same as we saw in Game 2, which is very much about team fighting, because Sivir, fantastic with these ricochets once she gets a couple items under her belt.
Now the question is going to be, what do they opt for here? Vladimir has been taken away from them. Do they take the opposite side of the matchup? Do they go for the Victor for Selfie?
Well, Zir is banned away, and in Game 1, that is what Selfie decided to go for. But with that unavailable, he could go for the Victor himself. Bit of a rough matchup early on, but he has a number of options available. He's saving it for that last pick so that he can pick more towards the whole composition of Millennium rather than just the lane.
This, on the side of Millennium, I feel like building a strong comp, a standard comp. Misfits, this is the murder train, Vedius. This is an Alistar, Sivir, Rek'Sai. And I mean, that Trundle, here's the thing, Alfari, we know him right now to be the stronger top lane with Gnar in his hands. But for most matchups, Gnar not included, Trundle is insanely lane dominant.
The thing is, not only is Trundle insanely lane dominant against pretty much everything else that is left on the table for Millennium, but also Sivir, Alistar, typically you wouldn't consider, oh, that's a terrifying 2v2 lane. You don't want to be going up against that. But we saw this duo lane, this combo in particular, getting a 2v2 outplay in the semifinals. And that is just terrifying to me to think that both Hans and Ignar can do that on a champion like Alistar, like Sivir, which typically in the early game not the strongest, but if you combine those, the headbutt pulverize into a full channel boomerang that doesn't hit any other minions, you can do a lot of damage, and they're looking to do that once more against a Janna, interestingly enough.
And the Shen as well. Shen for Kaze, I like the pick. Should be a pretty solid matchup against the Trundle, but Janna, this is a big question mark. Now, Crepo and I got the pleasure of casting a Janna game last week, and it didn't do anything.
Funny that.
It didn't do anything. I mean, it's a vulnerable pick. It's great at disengage, but who are you disengaging for?
I mean, the Alistar all in, the potential of the Sivir coming in as well. Obviously, the composition from Misfits is very much about, I'm going to run at you. You can set up the flank with Alfari, but there's not as much risk as there was with the Gnar before, where he could just come in and throw that big ult. You can potentially use the pillar, but the only real hard crowd control that Misfits have is with the Alistar. So, and with the potential knock-up from the...
and with the Malzahar ult.
But I mean, he's not really going to be your initiator.
That's
you know,
fair.
He's not going to be the one to start these fights. So Misfits very much about running at you, and the Janna's very much to say, whoa now, you want to run at us? Well, I'm going to be that disengaged.
Well, and while I think that is a valid point, and I think will be a decent answer to what Misfits have to bring to the table, you push people away with Janna, Lucian has to run back to get in range. So does Vladimir. I mean, these are short-range champions. These are champions that want to be up in the thick of it. It just feels, I mean, it feels like Millennium are drafting purely for comfort here.
Well, we'll have to see, because this time it's going to be pretty on the Vlad, tabs on the Lucian, which is exactly what Misfits had in Game 1. Let's see if they can do it better. Or sorry, what they had in Game 2. Let's see if they can do it better now in Game 3. Because if there was a time to shine, this would definitely be it.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, as we gear up for our third game, head on over to Twitter. Hashtag MSF win, hashtag MIL win. This could be your last chance. Or can Millenium bring it to a Game 4? Let's hear what you have to say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Game 3. Challenger champion spot on the line. First seed coming into the promotion tournament. So much at stake for both of these teams.
And we got a Mouse, boys. Let's talk about Mouse.
Malzahar?
Yes.
Would love to. Crepo says that this lane, they never hit each other and it's boring, but I always see them trade like crazy. What are your thoughts?
So, I actually did a lot of testing with a very good friend of mine with Malzahar. We sat in a custom game for at least 2 hours, basically playing around with Malzahar in a bunch of different matchups. And the thing is, Malzahar has a window, 1 to 5, where he's actually susceptible to a lot of trades, because the cooldown on his passive is very, very long. It's about 30 seconds at level 1, which means that if you just walk up basic attack him, then now his passive is down, and because his base stats are pretty low, it's actually very easy to trade back with him, especially with the cooldowns being very low, very long. It's actually very easy for you to just walk up and trade, and Vladimir, in the early game especially, can actually be as aggressive as he wants. And if Malzahar is concentrating on trading back, yes, they can go back and forth fairly evenly, but that means that Selfie is then going to get pushed underneath the turret, which is going to hurt his early game farming. The moment Selfie hits level 5 into level 6, the all-in potential is massive for a potential gank in the mids, but also there is no way that that Vladimir is going to be able to match the pushing potential that that Malzahar has come the level 7 mark. So it's actually a really interesting matchup, and if you're going to see any aggression coming out from the side of Millenium, there is a very small early game window that you can take advantage of. The question is, do Millenium understand Malzahar well enough to try and take advantage of it?
Well, Pretty does move in. Takes a bit of damage back in exchange. Now, my question is, we are repeatedly seeing standard lanes come out, but Misfits now with the range disadvantage in this bottom lane, do you think this is the right choice for them in the end?
Well, it's what the people wanted, Tsepha. This is what the audience has come for. No lane swap shenanigans. And for Misfits, I feel like this is a pretty rough lane.
So much damage down.
But Tab's taken a lot of return poke, but as I was mentioning earlier, this is a bit of a rough matchup, simply because you have... the thing you have to think about whenever you look at a bottom lane is, all right, if you compare the two supports initially, range versus melee. Melee is always going to struggle, right? Because you're just going to gradually get poked down. There's very little you can do about it. But the all-in from Misfits is actually very good, especially come the level 6 mark. If they can get that early level advantage, maybe get the early level 2, the risk of the all-in is very dangerous.
Ooh,
but
Millenium
Millenium getting the early level 2 means that they are the ones that are going to push Misfits around. And so far early on, Millenium are going to have the edge. But we saw this in Game 2. They burnt their flash early on and Wisdom punished it. Right now, it's going to be much harder for Wisdom to get that same sort of punishment.
You can see, I mean, already it's going to be a struggle here. Pressure moving in favor. I mean, this feels like the first time for Millenium that they've been able to pressure out so reliably in this lane, but the downside is that Kaze is already losing in the top lane by a pretty decent margin, 5 to 15. That wave is going to crash into the tower. He will be able to recoup some of that CS, but we're going to have to see how much he can actually even up here, because things are already not off to a great start for the top laner on the side of Millenium.
Well, this is just the nature of Trundle. Not only can he be quite the lane bully, but Shen is just one of those safe top laners that can trade relatively well if you manage your abilities effectively, but still, he's not very much about being lane dominant. It's about, I'm not going to die. Excuse me, I'm not going to die, but I'm also not going to kill you. And that's not really what you want against a Trundle, who's very much about, once I get 2 items, I'm going to be this split push menace that no one's going to be able to deal with. And in the hands of Alfari, a guy that's very well known for being this very dominant side lane pusher, if you give him that early lead, then he can very easily run away with it.
Yeah, you can see the mid lane. A lot about pressure right now, where Pretty is losing out at least a little bit, but we'll start to push that wave towards Selfie.
So you can see this early game mark. Pretty is being aggressive because he knows that the cooldown is very long, and Selfie is investing all of his mana into actually trading back, which against a Vladimir who has a lot of sustain isn't that bad. But the fact that Wisdom is donating this very early blue to Selfie is a dream come true for any Malzahar. Because you can run into some pretty severe mana problems early on, because you have a fairly small mana pool and your abilities actually cost quite a lot of mana. But the fact that he's got this means that Tsepha can be as aggressive as he wants. He can spam his abilities, going to easily clear out this wave. And oh man, I mean, as a mid laner, getting that is just like...
Well, I mean, it feels... Whenever we watch Fnatic play, I feel like Fevin never gets a blue buff ever. And it's the exact opposite when we're watching Misfits. Selfie gets every blue buff.
Yeah.
Because this guy is consistently playing Rek'Sai in the jungle. Selfie's always getting those early blues. And I mean, it's a good look for him. So much more comfortable in the laning phase with just an innate early advantage.
Yeah, Selfie, I mean, blue suits you. It matches your eyes. Really like it. I think you can pull the color off well.
And we got blue in the items department as well.
Just all about that blue, man.
Selfie, color coordinated here today.
Joko trying to match a bit of early aggression by stealing away some of the counts. Going to be unsuccessful, but he is doing a good job with the early vision. You can see top half of the river, warded out by Joko. Keeping an eye on whether or not Wisdom's trying to set anything up. But fortunately for Millenium, he is not. Now we've hit the level 5 mark for Malzahar. Now it will become a big pushing fiasco. But Tsepha, he can afford to be a lot more aggressive because of that blue buff pickup. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Tabs and Masterwork actually holding good control. But because of how talented Hans and Ignar are, the actual CS differential is not that big. And come the level 6 mark, that all-in potential is always a big risk that the Millennium have to be aware of.
And additionally, we look at the stakes set if you do lose and or win a team fight. Infernal Drake is up and available. Towers, all at full health, but if you win hard enough, you can snowball that gold advantage so quickly. At the same time, the double melee matchup in the top lane. Wisdom now pressuring out in the mid wave. Just the drive-by gank, just wants to let him know that he's there. Throws a tunnel down, maybe hoping to make a repeat performance later.
I'm watching you. I'm watching you. It's just going to walk away. Do a bit of counter jungling. Get some deep vision down. But nothing too dramatic happening as of yet. Tabs going for a bit of a cheeky trade.
I'm going to miss out on the spell shield.
Tabs.
A rare mistake. Pushed back, though, by Ignar. Knocked up again. That's the boomerang blade. So much damage. Tab knowing better than to commit for that trade, though. He's just going to back off.
Like, I get what Tabs was trying to do there, because he wanted to close the gap between him and Hans, because he knew that he would win. But you also created a gap between you and Masterwork, which means that not only are you asking Ignar to engage onto you, but then you also have no options for the support to come out from Masterwork, which was just surprising, because that's the big thing about Janna. When you go in for a trade, because of the shield and the bonus AD that you get, when you actually go in for trades, you typically come out ahead, which is why you want to avoid trading against Janna. But Tabs not quite taking advantage of that. Blue buff being stolen away from Misfits, going to successfully get it.
Dragasol goes in, trying to steal that one away. Kaze potentially in trouble. Wisdom just going to back off. They don't want to risk going in for too much, but Selfie's on the way. Ultimate available for the Malzahar. Does burn his ghost, though, and is not going to get anything back. No summoner spell exchange on Sama. Quick little tornado to stop that back, buying a little bit of extra time here on the bottom side.
Yep. Right now, teleport is down for Kaze, but he does have his ultimate available.
And he goes.
Just wondering right now what the junglers are looking to try and do, because Wisdom, this time he realizes that there aren't many great opportunities for him to set up, so he's reverted back to what he was doing in game 1, which is very much about controlling vision, setting up safety for his laners. He realizes, okay, we're going for more of a scaling composition once again. Mal's likely going to go for the Morellonomicon, as Ignar, very aggressive onto Joko.
What? It does not matter what this man plays. There are opportunities for him to invade every single time. And Joko, yeah, he's going to get the red buff. But my God, you got to be careful. Ignar at any moment can go look for that headbutt pulverize combo. Selfie consistently behind him. Maybe they look for the ultimate. Chain those abilities together. Keep one target locked down and knock them out. Once again, this game, like game 1, very controlled in the early game. No early opportunities for Wisdom.
Selfie can kill pretty here.
Oh, he's going to go for the ultimate. Ignar on the way in, keeping the chain CC going. No opportunity. Perfect chain coming in, and that's first blood for Misfits.
Pretty should have expected that. There was a level 8 Selfie. There was the risk of the all-in once he'd hit level 6. Pretty had taken so much harass, he didn't have the Crimson Rush. I guess what made matters worse was he was not expecting the roaming Ignar, and after game 2 he should have, but now look at dive in the top.
Here we go. Spirit's Refuge goes down, buys a little bit of time. Alphari tanking the tower, using the ultimate though. There's no resistances left for Shen. Flash away, flash forward. Chomp goes down. Kaze gonna drop. The Prey Seeker closes it out for Wisdom.
Another great dive in the top half of the map, setting up Alphari for success once again. 83 to 68 in Alphari's favor. This happened in game 2, where a bad matchup has now turned even worse for Kaze, and that Trundle is going to become a menace that honestly Millennium are not going to have an answer for.
Just gets harder and harder from this point out. 2K gold lead in the favor of Misfits. Tab's doing what he can to make moves on the bottom side, but just does not have the raw power necessary to take advantage of the lead that he's built for himself. 13 CS, not enough to overcome the 2 kills present on the side of Misfits, as well as their massive CS advantages in the top lane and the mid lane as well.
You can see Joko hanging around. Ignore going for the headbutt pulverize combo to get for a bit of a cheeky trade onto Tabs. Not going to result in anything significant though. But Wisdom and Joko are going to intercept one another.
Knock up, as you mentioned in game 1. Just 2 guys passing each other.
Whales in the ocean floor. It's a common saying from where I'm from. Sort of.
It's not, is it? You're trying to take advantage of the fact that I know nothing about your culture at all.
That's the Badger.
Hansama says back off. I'll take that mana. I'll take that tornado, and I'll pressure out on the bottom side here. But Joko's moving in. I think he's just going to continue his jungle clear, though. No real opportunity to dive out here on the bottom side.
So I don't know if it's getting hot in here, if it's just me. Oh, no, it is, in fact, the Infernal Drake. We mentioned it earlier on. That could be a big point of contention between the 2 teams.
Getting that to stop. That was awful.
Yo, it's a slow early game. You gotta throw those in there from time to time. See if I give people a nice little chuckle. That's what I like to do. I'm the chuckle man. You're just like, ha, that was funny. But anyway, look at Wisdom. Looking for another dive in the top lane.
Maybe one more. Rinse and repeat seems to be the name of the game this time around. But this time, Wisdom is tanking the tower. Spirit's Refuge going down. Kaze. Is he just going to get dove out here again? Wisdom, expert tanking on the tower. He's going to drop one more time. And Misfits, they just make it look so easy.
Clean dive once again. Alphari just stealing away all of his stats, which means that Kaze can do absolutely nothing about it. With the Tiamat completed, as Ignore comes in for a roam mid.
Oh, Pool comes out. No tower aggro drops, and Pretty just going to have to back off here.
Look at how aggressive Selfie's playing. You need to be careful. Masterwork has joined the fray.
Oh, Tornado comes in. They're trying to knock Selfie back. Has he overcommitted? It looks like it. Uses the ult, but isn't going to get anything back in the end. Misfits overextend.
Big oopsie there from Selfie. Looks like he was too busy focusing on trying to get damage down onto Pretty and did not notice that Joko had come in from the flank. Yes, Joko did have to use his flash, but he gets himself a kill. Now with control over the mid lane and with Wisdom, in the top half of the map, Millennium should be able to net themselves the first Dragon and the first Infernal of the game.
Could pay off dividends if they're able to take this game any later, but they may have to give up the Rift Herald in exchange, and that top lane matchup already going against them. 86 CS to 119, almost a 40 differential at this point in the game. It's only going to continue to grow if he gets his hands on this Glimpse of the Void. 20 minutes. Oh, that's just going to be one terrifying Trundle, and I'm really wondering how Millennium are going to respond to this.
Well, in all honesty, they just need to do damage control at this point, because Kaze, as we mentioned earlier, he's likely not going to dive, but then at the same time, he's not going to do anything to the Trundle. So have a look at this. Look at how aggressively Selfie's playing. He should have spotted Joko very early on, but instead he was more focused on actually trying to force Pretty away from the turret, which means that Joko can very easily come in from the flank to set up the kill. Masterwork, he did use his W early on to burn the passive of Selfie, which means he did not have it available for the flank that came in from Joko, and it netted in him losing his life. So first death over to Misfits, or 4 Misfits even, but still, 3,500 gold in their favor.
Exactly where you want to be. I mean, it's not the 5K gold lead from last game.
I mean, they still have, what, like a minute left to net themselves another 2,000 gold. But yeah.
Is this the minute, Vedius?
Is this the minute to change everything? Pretty. He has his flash, so no real risk of Ignite going for the collapse. But now we see the 1-3-1 being set up from Misfits. Typical trend that we regularly see from them. Seems to be a strategy that they make work. And I like how Wisdom always prioritizes the side of the map that is most likely to be at risk. In game 1, we saw it from Alphari, simply because he was struggling a little bit. A lot of ganks came out from Joko. Then in game 2, he set up Alphari very nicely early on. So he then put a lot of attention onto helping Selfie out, and now he's doing the same again. a lot of vision in the bottom half of the map, especially the river, to enable Selfie to play as aggressively as he wants, and to just allow Mouse to do Mouse things.
Exactly where he wants to be. You can see Hans, though, more than comfortable in that bottom lane. Not the same story for Kaze on the top side. He's going to have to blow that flash. Run away from that Trundle. 40 CS advantage coming in big. Jaina just trying to discourage any further aggression with that Zephyr, but man, I mean, that Trundle already has the Ravenous Hydra. He's already just going to sustain up through any poke you put him through.
He's going to be a beefy Trundle.
Yeah. I mean, massive lead in the jungle
too
as well.
One would say Hulk-like.
But Vedius, do Millenium have the anti-Hulk juice?
Well, this is the question, because right now, it looks like they don't. And to be honest, Alfari, if given the opportunity, will look to smash. And now what they've actually done is they've relegated Kaze to the bottom half of the map to try and do a selfie. And they said, look, I don't have a counter to smash, so maybe I can counter Void Magic. But because he's decided to go no magic resistance, Selfie can just bully him around. Kaze can't match the wave clear, and so, sure, you're less likely to die, but you're still going to gradually lose your turrets and your base if you just stay in the 1 versus 1 against a Malzahar. In fairness, one of the big counter picks in Korea to a Shen was a Malzahar, because you cannot counter the push. So while I like the swap up from Millenium to try and avoid the Trundle matchup, I feel like it's not really any better against the Mals. If anything, it could be worse.
Well, now, too, Misfits are just able to respond so easily because they have the pressure advantage here. They just send Selfie back to the top side. Now Alfari's on the bottom.
Me again.
It's his frozen domain. He's hulking out. He's hitting on that tower. And Selfie more than happy to just clear out the waves here. There's no way Lucian and Jaina can pressure this out.
So satisfying when those blueberries kill every single minion. It's almost so deceptive, being like, hey, here, have this treat, I've got you a snack. And the more you eat, the more it hurts you.
I don't think you... Do you think that the Malzahar Voidlings look like blueberries?
No, I think that the E looks like blueberries. And they're like treats that the minions eat, and the more they eat, the more it consumes them. And so that ends up them forfeiting their life. It's a cruel way to die.
The way that you're looking at me intently in the eyes is just a little unnerving.
Having played enough Malzahar, you think these cruel thoughts. But that's what being in the void for too long does to you, Tsepha.
Apparently it's going to net you a tier 2 top lane tower as well, as Millenium are now pushing in, or now forced back, rather, off this, as Misfits are going to take this one. 6K gold lead, 17 minutes in.
I mean, Millenium is slowly being bled out at this point. They gave away 2 very early kills. One was just a misplay from Pretty, not respecting the all-in from Selfie, definitely not expecting the Ignar roam in the mid as well, and then the dives top from Wisdom and Selfie, which Joko should have been setting up vision for. He knew that Kaze was going to get pushed in, yet didn't do anything to help him out. And it was just oversights from Millenium in the early game that have resulted in Misfits now sitting on a 6K gold lead.
I mean, 3 towers to 0. Selfie just going to walk away. Unfortunately for Shen, the Shadow Dash forward wouldn't have gotten the taunt there in the end either, and Ignar now has to run for his life. Ultimate used. Joko getting aggressive here, but Misfit's just going to back off. Millenium moving forward. They see an opportunity, but nothing going to come from it.
Well, it's going to force Ignar back. His ult is going to be down. Infernal Drake is going to be spawning in 5 seconds, so because he's gone... Ooh, close. Because he's gone, it does allow Millenium to quickly set up for the Dragon. They might look to try and rush this one down, but the response from Misfit is swift. We're likely to see a fight here, Tsepha.
TB coming in on the backside. Wisdom's on the front lines. He's going to dash away. Hans-Sama waiting in the wings. No on the hunt available either, but Selfie's pushing forward. Headbutt pulverized down to the Pretty. Ultimate goes down. The chain CC burns through the mid laner. Joko running for his life. Monsoon going to offer a little bit of healing, a brief respite, but it is not enough as the double kill drops. And Misfits take control of the fight. They've moved on to the Infernal Drake as well. Beautiful engage from Ignar. Masterwork taken down. Taps. Is he next? Ignar just buying time. Flash over the wall for Hans-Sama. He wants some style points, but he isn't going to get it in the end as Wisdom cuts through Masterwork.
The 4-for-0 in favor of Misfits. Just like we saw in Game 2, a commanding fight that went so one-sidedly in their favor. Millenium, they tried to force the Infernal Drake. They wanted to pick up that objective, but they were in no position to contest it. Misfits get themselves the collapse. A really good teleport flank from Alfari. nets them the dragon, nets them the kills, and now they're going to get themselves a bunch of turrets as well.
One tower drops in the mid lane, another to fall on the bottom side, as well as the Infernal Drake, as well as the kills. And things, simply put, do not look good for Millenium.
But things looking great for Misfits, and moving forward towards the promotion tournament, these bottom tier teams need to be terrified of the storm that is heading their way. So have a look at Alfari. He comes in from the flank, great pillar into a knockup onto Pretty. Means that Selfie can very easily get the kill. Kaze then doing what he can to try and provide peel for the rest of his team, but it just isn't enough.
And you got to feel bad for Kaze, and we'll watch this Ignar headbutt pull just so clean.
Really good execution from Ignar. The two-pronged attack, one from the top, one from the rear. Hans goes in for the dive, and then Ignar's like, whoa, dude, I don't have enough health. Which means that Tabs does get away with his life, but still, 4 kills for 0 in favor of Misfits. 10,000 gold lead at 20 minutes once again. So let's see if they can close things out a little bit quicker, as Joko looks for a potential roam onto Selfie.
Not going to get it. Knock away that spell immunity. Knock away that shield for a brief moment, but the higher the level the Malzahar gets, the easier it is for him to get that back. Of course, they've been playing around the passive well thus far, but unfortunately has not really net them too much outside of that first blood. Void Shift, a good ability to be aware of, but that alone not enough to win you the game, unfortunately.
Void Shift sounds like a dance move to me.
Probably is. Maybe that's the name of his dance.
Could very well be. I like it. We should.
Except I think that's a real dance that has an actual name.
Yeah, but we should work on our Void Shift. I think that'd be great caster intro, Tsepha.
Next season,
I feel like I can't tell if you're like disappointed.
No,
Joko, he's definitely disappointed.
Joko may have to be. They're going to burn him down so quickly, but Shen is on the way in. Masterwork has to run for his life, tries to reset the fight with Monsoon. But it is just a trade of abilities. Ignar maybe too far forward. Selfie throwing in a Voidling to scout this one out.
And now Misfits just taking control of the Baron, just like they did in Game 2. Their objective right now isn't even to start it. They just want to lure Millenium into their trap. And Selfie, he may have found Pretty.
Oh, not going to get the silence, but is going to get the headbutt pull. Ultimate not coming out. Maybe just trying to bait him. Ultimate coming in for the Alistair, though. He's going to have to walk his way out of that one. Joko set to fall. Pretty's trying to do some damage back, but Wisdom gets the knock up onto him. Now the Malefic Visions is cutting him down. Alfari's on the back line. Pretty has to flash forward, but what can he get back? The double kill from Tabs. Millenium are starting to turn this. Do they have the damage? Is it going to be enough? They catch out the bot lane, but the jungler is moving forward. Selfie is on a rampage, and Pretty is set to fall. The pool is going to be enough to disengage. Tabs picking up 2 quick kills, but Misfits still walking away with the advantage.
So 2 for 3 in favor of Misfits, but there were signs of promise there for Millenium. Hansama does get caught out on the back line, but the big problem for Millenium is trying to deal with Selfie. He just does so much damage. The fact that he has so much cooldown reduction means that he can spam these silences, spam the Voidlings, and overall make it so difficult for Millenium to really respond to the output of his damage. So notice that initially his focus is onto Pretty. He doesn't use the ult yet because he's aware of the re-engage. The ultimate from Vlad only hits onto Ignar, and then the moment Selfie sees an opportunity to get a pick, he goes for it. He kills Joko. Hansama thinks he can go for the collapse, doesn't respect the flank from Kaze, gets caught out of position. Tabs then goes on to kill Ignar, and because it's a 3 for 3, Millenium feel like that they can continue on with the fight, but because Wisdom positions in a way that zones Tab from the fight, it then turns it into a 2 versus 2 against Selfie, in which Millenium just could not win. So overall, Misfits netting a kill advantage, but it largely enables them to gain control as they force another fight.
Joko taking a lot of damage, but they're going to be pushed out. Selfie suddenly in trouble. Tabs exhausted. How much damage can they do? He's getting cut down, but it's not going to be enough. Running away. Alfari now moving in, trying to get something back. Tabs dropped. Wisdom on the backline. Masterwork trying to buy a reprieve for his mid laner, but he's caught in the thick of it. It is simply a meat grinder in the favor of Misfits, as Pretty is now set to fall. He's going to drop. Ignar trying to keep this fight going. Kaze knocked back into the team. The alley-oop overall, but the Spirit's Refuge buys him a bit of time as he starts to fall. Masterwork takes down Ignar, but Hansama's going to get the top laner, and Misfits are going to get the Baron.
Misfits just continue to smash as they get themselves another 4 kills down onto Millenium. Ignar trades away his life simply due to the overconfident play of diving that turret, but it just does not matter because Misfits are going to net themselves the Baron. They're going to increase their gold lead to 14k. and have a look at how this all started off. Millenium, they try to force the play. Joko takes so much damage initially, and things, they're not looking that bad, but then once the TP from Alfari comes in, he just says, there is no way that I'm going to let my prey escape. Continues on with the chase, continues beating down onto Millenium. Kaze's already forced out of the fight, and then it's just a matter of cleanup for the side of Misfits. Once again, they don't lose any members. You can see Ignar helps his team get themselves a kill onto Kaze, but good play from Masterwork to enable the return onto Ignar.
A consolation prize, if you will, at this stage, but maybe they'll look for more. Ignar once again has a Hextech Proto Belt.
Standard.
No.
It's for disengage.
What?
It's for disengage.
If you were watching this and you were in solo queue, unless you were hilariously fed, please don't build a Hextech Proto
Well,
Belt.
now, it actually has some really positive aspects. But enough of that, because Masterwork, he's been caught.
I don't really know how many opportunities he has to come back. Kaze's on the way in. Alfari, though, is nigh unkillable. He's going to walk away from this one. Selfie going to have a staring contest with Pretty, and Pretty, he's not going to win that one. Moving down for more. Wisdom on the flank. Is he going to be able to get it? Joker with a flash body slam, looking to buy a little bit more time to save his AD carry. Wisdom not too happy with that, though. Chilling Smite, the double kill for Selfie, and maybe one more for Wisdom. Look for the disengage. Eye of the Storm goes down. Coling comes out, but Misfits are unconcerned as they cut through the inhibitor tower. And with 3 members down, Misfits are poised to close out the series 3-0.
It looks like Misfits are going to be able to do it. They win a commanding team fight, and Misfits, they want more kills before they end this series.
Closing out with style points as the support drops. AD carry, if he takes one step outside of the base, will be sure to follow. And Misfits, Game 1 was a long, hard-fought battle, but it has only gotten faster in Game 2, and now as we are poised to end at the 26-minute mark, Misfits take control. The one final fight not going to mean too much. One more staring contest for the Malzahar. One more death for the scoreboard for Gyoko. The double kill for Selfie, the double kill for Hansama, and the 3-0 for Misfits to close out the Challenger Summer Series.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Misfits for being your European Summer Split champions in commanding fashion. And what a way to do it. 26 minutes, 49 seconds closing out that Game 3. Things look promising for Millenium in Game 1, but I feel like that the Hulk juices just kept building in the side of Misfits, and they really did smash in the final game.
It was definitely a dominant performance coming in from Misfits. I feel like we saw good things coming in from Millennium in Game 1, but Misfits just showing up in Game 2 and Game 3 to just crush this series out. Now, of course, Millennium now on that lower seed.
They're still in the promotion tournament.
Absolutely, and they face LCS 10, but they do not have the luxury of 2 losses. They're only going to get one shot, one best of 5.
One opportunity, even?
We can, no.
But yes, as you rightly said, it's a bit of a slippery road to go on, but you will be going up against the 10th seed, which right now is Roccat, but obviously the analyst test, they'll talk more about that a little bit later. Right now, what we need to focus on is how dominant Misfits have looked throughout this series. Game 1, they looked smart and calculated. Game 2, they looked super lane dominant. And I feel like Game 3, we just saw a combination of everything. Not only was there lane dominance, there was fantastic roaming from Ignar, great resources, allocation coming out from Wisdom, knowing exactly where to gank and which laners to set up for success, fantastic drafting, seeming to have an endless champ pool, and any team that's even considering looking at Misfits right now should be terrified because they look so good.
Yeah, on an individual level, we know they've been scrimming LCS teams as well and pulling wins out. You have to wonder how they're going to stack up when it comes to the promotion tournament, if they can look this dominant against what the LCS has to offer. The bottom of the table, the LCS, admittedly, but still, professional players, teams you're going to have to respect. Misfits, I mean, what do they work on coming into this? They feel uncontested in their dominance here in Challenger.
I mean, this is it. Right now, they've only been playing Challenger teams from what we have seen. It's difficult to say what their big weaknesses are until we see someone really put them up to a challenge that would force them into a corner. And so, right now, there are a lot of questions as to whether or not our bottom teams in the LCS can match the top teams of Challenger, but you can't help but think back to Origin. You can't help but think back to Spring Sprint Millennium. You know, you can't think back. It's difficult to not think back to all these fantastic teams.
G2, to all these teams that have come out of nowhere.
Exactly.
And just risen up the ranks.
Exactly.
I want to see more. I want to know how they stack up.
Well, it's
against...
only a few weeks until the promotion tournament, Tsepha.
No, that's not what I want to hear. I want more, Vedius.
Well, fortunately, the LCS does continue Thursday.
Gonna be week 8. Get your tickets now on EU.lollysports.com. Hashtag sell it.
But I do want to have a quick look at some of the damage dealt.
Yeah, I think.
Funnily enough, Selfie right at the top.
He did 31,000.
The next highest was Tabs on 15.2. So he did double of the second highest. And I do want to give an honorable mention to Tabs because we did wonder how impressive he would actually be. And on this Lucian pick in the final game, taking it away from Hans Sama, I do want to praise him because he did do a good job during the laning phase.
Absolutely, and I think when we look at it too, you can see the draft here on the bottom of your screen, he picked a winning lane. He did win the lane with it. The issue is, of course, that while they were able to win bottom, I mean, honestly, every other single lane just kind of fell apart in the face of that.
Yep, and a large part of that was, in all honesty, wisdom. Just being a very smart player, knowing exactly where to gank. His vision control was good, and it was just the lanes in which he was allocating himself was just really impressive to see. So, very smart draft overall. We wondered whether or not they would change up their bans, and a big question mark for me was why didn't Millenium put more priority on the Trundle? When you're going to ban away the Gnar, you have to think, what else is good into Trundle? Oh, wait, nothing? So why would you allow that to go through so late into the draft?
We can see what happens when a Trundle is allowed to run through a game, when he's allowed to get tanky and terrifying. I mean, specifically in that Baron fight, towards the end of that game, you got to see the full raw power this Trundle enabled. And as we look at that replay, we're going to see exactly how this fight unfolded. And while there's so many points at stake, just watch it when the Trundle does arrive here with that TP.
I mean, there are many moments in this game where Millenium did wish they had anti-Hulk juice, but just keep your eyes, because the teleport coming in from the flank, once Millenium realize they can't actually get a kill onto Hans or Selfie, Alpha just comes in and smashes Millenium to pieces. It was so impressive to see, and you can't do anything about it. Vladimir, one of the few champions come the late game that can deal with it, but when you're so far ahead on the Trundle, when you've completed so many of your core items, there's just very little that you can do to really mitigate his ability to just stick on top of you and just crush you into teeny tiny pieces.
Yeah, and of course Ignar, a walking highlight reel this game as he looked for engages left and right, and while there were a few blunders, there were a few blunders. I mean, if a support ever gets to build Proto Belt 2 games in a row, you know he's doing pretty darn well.
To expand upon that a little bit more, on Alistair you only have all in. So once you realize, oops, there's no follow-up, you Proto Belt out. That's the point. See, you're just like, oh no, I'm in trouble. I gotta put, whoa, I'm good again. Alternatively, you could use it for a secondary engage. So I like it, but only get it when you're really far ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I think really curious to see if this will become a meta thing, because I think it's hype, but I don't know. Honestly,
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how. Well, I'm just curious exactly what they're going to be able to pick as the meta moves forward, and if they continue to be this aggressive with picks. Definitely an interesting. We'll see. We'll see.
We will see.
We'll have to see. Maybe we can hear what they have.